I turned myself into a pickle, Morty. I'm Pickle Rick! Rick and Morty. You know what it is, we all know what it is. The show has become one of the most popular phenomena in recent years, and has skyrocketed in popularity within the last year, to immense negative effect. I, like many others, quite like the show. I don't think it's the best thing on the planet, nor do I think watching it makes you smarter, but I do quite like it. However, very recently, I've become embarrassed to say I'm even a fan of it. See, Rick and Morty has fallen to what I like to call the Five Nights at Freddy's syndrome, in which the fans become so obsessive and irritating that the mere name Rick and Morty now brings with it negative connotations, instead of conjuring up the image of the fantastic show that it actually is. Because of people like this. People like this now represent the entire fanbase. And of course the general people to become toxic or autistic and all those other creative adjectives the internet definitely hasn't overused. In this episode of Ruined Forever, you're not going to be hearing me complaining about Rick and Morty itself. I have no quarrels there. Though there are plenty that felt that season 3 was a downgrade in quality, I still liked it. No. Instead, this episode is centering around the response garnered from Rick and Morty and how a fanbase can bring down a series. Just a brief warning before we begin, this video is reasonably opinionated, more so than my other Ruined Forevers will be. I'd like to say that I do not think of myself as better than anyone, I'm merely speaking my thoughts in this video. With that, I hope you enjoy. A popular topic that popped up on YouTube about a month ago was people talking about the cringy people dressing up as Rick and Morty characters and going on Musical.ly. Now, while I personally find Musical.ly the most repulsive thing on the entire planet, and every single thing produced off of it looks like it comes from the depths of my nightmares, I see no real issue with it. If we're being honest, it's just people having fun. I don't understand why everyone got so pissed about it. Is it cringy? Yes, definitely. Oh my god, yes. But you can't get angry at these people and claim they're not real Rick and Morty fans just because they're enjoying it differently to how you would. It's possible for two people who are interested in the same thing to enjoy it in two different ways. Some people are going to find Pickle Rick absolutely hilarious, while some will self-combust from anger at the mere mention of it. I understand how incredibly irritating it gets to have people chant and obsess over these jokes and run them into the ground faster than the internet did Harambe jokes, but I don't think that they deserve the amount of hate that people deliver to them. Anyway, enough about what I think. These Musical.ly videos sparked a divide in the fan base, in a time of the show's sudden popularity spike. It caused such an uproar that many popular YouTubers began to cover the topic, including Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's and Markiplier. Then came the Szechuan sauce incident, which just made everything worse. I'm pretty sure a majority of you will know what occurred, but for those who don't know, the first episode of season 3 of Rick and Morty saw Rick obsessing over McDonald's Szechuan dipping sauce, and from there it became immensely popular on the internet. McDonald's, noticing an opportunity to drown in profit, decided to bring back the sauce with a limited supply, but heavily understocked them. We're talking like worse than Amiibos understocked. So when McDonald's ran out, this happened. I can understand why people were upset. McDonald's clearly underestimated how much people liked the show. People started camping out at early hours of the morning just to get in first. I can perfectly understand why people would be pissed, but this shit is just fucking ridiculous.
I want Szechuan sauce! Where's my Szechuan sauce? I'm Pickle Rick!
It's fairly obvious that the guy was just joking and having fun, and that's fine. But what's not fine is having fun at other people's expense. Still, he managed to successfully represent the current state of the Rick and Morty fanbase's humor. Harassing the staff and employees wasn't going to change anything. Acting like a bunch of children by rioting and inconveniencing so many people just because they wanted a freaking sauce is just embarrassing. It was so embarrassing that it made the news. They say any publicity is good publicity, but Rick and Morty's fanbase appearing like a bunch of children on headlines around the world probably didn't do the franchise any favors. There's a certain layer of irony seeing a fanbase that is generally known for believing they are more intelligent than others acting like children. I feel genuinely sorry for Justin Roiland, Dan Harmon, and the entire crew working on the show by putting so much effort to produce quality that people misrepresent like this. And thus, Rick and Morty was yet another fantastic property that had its reputation torn down by a very vocal minority, much like other franchises like Undertale, Steven Universe, and Sonic before it. Another example of a good show that had its reputation torn down by its fanbase was Steven Universe. Whether you like it or hate it, it can't be denied that Steven Universe is both popular and influential. However, when many, or at the very least myself, think of Steven Universe, I think of the fanbase's general ferocity. The same goes for the anime community, which is generally stereotyped as looking like this or this, simply based on a few people that have surfaced on the internet that give the fanbase a bad name. Just because someone is doing something you may find cringy doesn't give you the right to put someone down. And yet, people do anyway. shoving videos such as these within their shitty cringe compilations, and so the stereotyping begins. And yes, I know, there are some people who take their interest way too far, and I'm not saying that nobody is worthy of criticism. But perhaps this amount of hate that most people get is just ridiculous. Not everybody who likes Steven Universe is like this, and not everybody who likes Rick and Morty is like this, but a majority of people will generalize, and once a fanbase gets out of control, that then becomes its identity. This is what Rick and Morty is now. The same way Sonic is now this and Minecraft is now this. It gets to the point where the response of something is so bad that it doesn't matter if it's a good quality product or not. It becomes an absolute joke, a laughingstock. Events like these change the way a franchise is viewed forever. It honestly confuses me how people can act like this. By acting like an absolute dipshit, you're misrepresenting the franchise you apparently love so much. People who act like this make everybody else in the entire fanbase look bad, and causing those who never had the chance to experience a show or game or book to hate the series with a passion due to how it has been presented to them. It was because of the people that act like this that so many franchises have been ruined indefinitely. Every fanbase is going to have people like that. It's inevitable and it's ignorant to think that it won't happen. But it's the people who don't think before they act and do shit like this that end up ruining something for so many people. Fans can change a series. The more responsive and vocal they are, the more they can affect a product. Take Sonic the Hedgehog for example, a series that now nobody can take seriously. Even its own Twitter account has become self-aware and jokes about itself. Now, while being hip and cool is nothing new when it comes to companies and their social media accounts, such as Wendy's sudden genius, most companies don't make fun of themselves. I personally see this as a positive thing. Sega and Sonic Team are embracing their flaws and making it work, becoming a self-aware parody of themselves. But see, that's also the issue with it. Sonic was once a highly respected video game franchise. Fast forward to 20 years later and it's become nothing more than a joke that even those who created it are in on. And that's not even to mention the rather disgusting fan art that pops up everywhere. Let's not talk about that. People, namely those on the internet, have torn down the reputation that the series once had, memeing it to death to the point of even the creators recognizing it. But enough about Sonic, that's a topic for another day. Let's try another example. Poor Undertale, which I admit I never found myself getting into at the peak of its popularity, I must say is a splendid and unique game filled with character, wit, and originality. And because of this, it garnered a fanbase so incredibly awful that Undertale itself has become a word that people utter with seething hatred. A game that was once popular became so popular that it was brought down by the very people that embraced it. Undertale and Sonic weren't the only victims. Bendy and the Ink Machine, Grand Theft Auto 5, CSGO, Hello Neighbor, Minecraft, or even Five Nights at Freddy's, I guess. Ambitious, unique, and fairly decent games, except for the latter, that the internet swarmed and obsessed over and tore to shreds. The more popular something becomes, the more people it attracts. And within that amount of people are those like this, who have the ability to ruin the reputation of a franchise for everyone. What this generates is a massive amount of unwarranted hate for something. Those who have never even seen the show will hop onto a bandwagon because they've had stuff like this and this thrown in their faces every 5 seconds. It's this vicious cycle. Something becomes popular, people ruin it, and then it becomes a symbol of hatred for those who hate it without even giving it a chance. I'm not gonna lie, I've done this before. I too have claimed I've disliked things without even checking them out. I did that recently actually, where I hopped into the bandwagon of hating on the Powerpuff Girls reboot, without having actually seen it before. Only recently did I actually watch it for the Ruin Forever episode I did on it, and thankfully it was as bad as I initially thought it was. But I made the mistake of making a judgment on it before I'd even seen it, simply because the internet had collectively decided it was shit. I did the same with Frozen when that came out several years ago, and then I watched it and it wasn't that bad. It was only later that I began to hate it, thanks to the fact that I would proceed to hear Let It Go for the next 2 goddamn years of my life. I don't know if this is just me, but nothing can ruin something for me quite like being surrounded by people who won't shut the hell up about it. I despise Harry Potter as much as I do, due to the fact that I've grown up around people who wouldn't stop talking about it. But I've never read the books, and I haven't seen most of the movies. And yet, I despise it with a burning passion. That doesn't mean I think that everyone that does like it is an idiot though. The same happened with Pokemon Go. I love Pokemon, and yet that trend became so massive that I began to become sick of the series. I'm sure everyone hates Despicable Me at this point because of how the frickin' minions are absolutely everywhere. It's annoying to have something constantly shoved in your face, and I'll be honest, it doesn't make me want to check it out as much as it does make me want to punch in the face everyone who keeps posting about it. When you consider this, it begins to make sense why so many began to despise the Pickle Rick joke that so many embraced. Simply the knowledge that a fanbase is going to obsess over a particular joke or quote is enough to make you hate it. This behavior does ruin the experience of watching a cartoon. When watching episode 9 of season 3 of Rick and Morty, I had to groan knowing that Rick's little "nothing matters" speech would soon become subject of constant repetition from fans of the show.
Am I evil?
Worse, you're smart. When you know nothing matters, the universe is yours.
It makes it harder to watch, knowing that you're most likely going to hear it for the next 2 months. But that's only if you let that bother you. I'm a strong believer that others should never influence the way you feel about something, which I know many may find ironic considering the nature of my channel. Rick and Morty is a brilliant show, and despite the horrid rise of the fanbase, their actions should not affect your opinions on it, no matter how influential they seem. People can be very protective of their interest, to the point of having criticism against that franchise taken as a personal insult. The Rick and Morty fanbase has recently become known for being just like this. Being generalized as people who believe themselves to be smarter than others, simply because what they watch is deemed as a smart show. Those who believe that they are better than everyone else and that everyone that disagrees with them is just unintelligent. That they hate Rick and Morty because they're too stupid to understand it. Okay, I have to make at least one reference to it. To be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty. These kind of people are getting the most attention and will be noticed above those who are polite about their interests. Rick and Morty fans are becoming subject to abuse all over the internet, and it can only get worse from here. The behavior of people like this impact on everyone, because even if a majority of the fanbase aren't as immature as this, they're still going to get shit for it simply for sharing the same interests as these people. This is what tears down a fandom, the cycle of hatred. The way that these fandoms have been stereotyped is the way they'll be viewed forever. Most people in these groups just want to share their love of a series and discuss it with others, but there are always going to be those who mistreat others while bearing the mark of a fan on their backs, and it's thanks to the internet's obsession with sharing cringy things that it doesn't take long for these people to become the face of a fandom. Minecraft was a fantastically unique game when it came out, and was instantly popular amongst the general people. The game showcased how creative and brilliant people could be should they be given the right tools. And now look at the game. It's nothing more than a joke. If you play Minecraft, regardless of the context, you're instantly a loser. You watch anime? Weeb. You like My Little Pony? Virgin. A good example of a fanbase unnecessarily hated to shit is the rather unique fanbase of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Remember when everyone used to bully bronies just because they were interested in something that society deemed was only appropriate for young girls? No one should ever be put down, criticized, or judged just because of what they like. I've spoken to many bronies, and I have to say they are some of the nicest people I've ever spoken to. And yet people hated on them from all over the internet, just for being interested in a series that wasn't the norm, for being weird. It's disgusting behavior, honestly. The people who bashed bronies most likely returned to their fantasy football teams or playing Call of Duty and shouting at 12-year-olds shortly after. Everyone has something they're interested in. What you like is no better than what someone else likes, and you have no right to put someone down for liking something when you yourself are a fan of a series. The brony fiasco has mostly since blown over, but they are still subject to the butt of jokes, simply because it's easy to make jokes about an older man watching a girl's cartoon about ponies. The same is currently happening to Rick and Morty. After watching this unfold, it's now set in stone that another franchise has devolved into a vocal minority of idiots, bringing down a reputation for everyone else. And I do not look forward to what awaits the actually decent fans of the show. The internet always needs something to hate, and will spend its time mocking something relentlessly for a while before everyone gets bored and moves on. It's a horrible wave of hatred for a majority that don't deserve it. We all have likes and dislikes, and just because someone is a fan of something that you aren't doesn't give you the right to attack them for it. Nobody should have to hide what they like for fear of people thinking worse of them. These are things that make people happy. Why should they be insulted for that? There is a way to fix this though. If everyone was to start treating others with respect. But yeah, right, as if that's ever gonna happen. It isn't that hard of a concept to understand that not everybody within a fanbase is the same. Not everybody is this stupid, nor is everybody this kind. There are very few communities that are known for being kind and welcoming, simply because people are more interested in making fun of others. This just isn't right. We all have likes and dislikes, and just because someone is a fan of something that you don't like, doesn't mean you should attack them for that. Nobody should have to hide what they like for fear of people thinking worse of them. Be accepting. These are things that make people happy. Why should they be insulted for that? But hey, this is the internet. Nothing I say will matter or change anything. That's just the way it is. I'm sure a lot of you can relate, either being on the receiving end of hate or being the one dishing it out. So back to Rick and Morty. As I said, it has fallen victim to the horrible epidemic of frenzied and obsessive fans. If you tell someone that you like Rick and Morty nowadays, you'll most likely be looked down upon. It's amazing how such a small group of people can ruin a franchise for everyone. Is Rick and Morty ruined forever? Yes. I've never seen a franchise recover from this idiocy, merely have them fade into the background and accepted. I'm not going to be able to tell people I like this show, for fear of being labelled as one of these people. Or I guess I don't have to anymore, considering I just put it on the internet. But no one should have to be ashamed of their interests or what fandom they belong to. Ever. But it's inevitable in our day and age that we can't have nice things. Rick and Morty is ruined not because it's a terrible cartoon, or because it's gotten worse in quality over time. No, instead, unlike other topics we've covered on Ruined Forever, which didn't have much of one to begin with, it is instead Rick and Morty's reputation that has been obliterated thanks to these people. So what's the message to take away from all of this? Rick and Morty is a great show and it has a terrible fan base. No, instead I'd like to give you my 2 cents. Don't generalize a fan base or knock something before you try it. Everyone is human, and it doesn't matter what fandom they're a part of, they don't deserve to be criticized for their interests. I feel like everyone has it in them to treat others with kindness, and not immediately cause an argument simply because someone said something that you disagree with. We won't have to worry about these cancerous fan bases if people simply acted nicer to one another. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a lonely teenager talking to a camera about cartoons.
I'm Pickle Rick!